Hello, everyone, and welcome to One Civil Law, where we learn through the misfortunes of others. As always, I'm your host, Kurt Mueller, a licensed attorney in Texas, Virginia, and before the U.S. Supreme Court, and I hope you're having a great day. For today's story, we turn our attention to the story of the DoorDash girl, otherwise known as Olivia Henderson, from Oswego, New York. Olivia is a DoorDash driver who was delivering some food to a guy's house. The instructions said to leave it at the door. She did not. She took video of what she observed and is now being charged with some felonies. So in order to understand this story best, it would be helpful to see the videos that are relevant to this story. So thoughtfully, someone has put a compilation together of all the relevant videos from Olivia. So we're going to go ahead and watch those so we can comment intelligently. We begin with the most operative video, I suppose, in that it is the literal crime. So the video of the crime as it's occurring, the evidence of the crime itself. And it begins with her with the picture of the food outside the door, and then she has text that she has put on top of this TikTok. The text that she's superimposed on the video reads as follows. A man named Austin orders DoorDash, selects the option to have order left at door, sees his DoorDasher, me, has a female name, falls asleep on the couch with his pants and underwear to his ankles, and his front door open wide in 59 degrees Fahrenheit. So this is what I see when I have to leave the order. Yeah, not all this was true, as it turns out. She's the one that opened the door. The door was not left open wide, but we'll get to that in a minute. So let's go ahead and watch this video, and we'll comment in just a moment about it.
Hey guys, so DoorDash just deactivated me 2 days after I reported my sexual assault.
So she, first of all, describes that as a sexual assault. We need to have a discussion on basically every part of that. Also, her smile is just super creepy. I'd like to take note. Yeah, he didn't sexually assault you. Kind of the other way around, if anything. Yeah.
Hey guys, I just lost my job, and they won't tell me why. They're supposed to send an email.
You couldn't figure it out? You couldn't put two and two together about why? Do you understand why now?
Email immediately after deactivation providing you the reason why and a link to appeal, and they didn't. So I contacted support, and they made me sit on the phone with them for 50 minutes just to tell me that they can't tell me the reason why, and I have to just go ahead and appeal without knowing why. So my chances of getting my account back, they have my money in that account. I was working. I was literally working, and they deactivated me. This is related. They just punished me for posting about my sexual assault while DoorDashing. They just fired me, and the police are doing nothing.
As it turns out, the police are doing things. Are you happy now? Probably not.
I lost my job, and that was my only way to make money to pay my bills. 3 days ago, October 12th, 2025, I was a victim of
Okay, so this one says, regarding or what happened to me while I was doing my job DoorDashing. I'm being punished as a victim by all sectors, including right now the police, DoorDash, and TikTok are all punishing me, a victim. Girl, not so much. Not so much. Kind of exactly the other way around, man.
SA by a DoorDash customer while I was doing my job as a DoorDash driver. Excuse me if you've already seen this. This is my third time posting this because TikTok keeps silencing me and taking my videos down and giving me strikes. So if I get one more strike, you guys, I'm just letting you know right now my account is going to be banned.
That is the least of your problems. Yeah, your DoorDash career and your TikTok is not your chief problem at the moment.
So I'm going to try to word this as chill as possible to avoid.
I'd like to take note, obviously, by the way, that you better bet your ass that all these videos will be played for the jury in full. I would if I were the prosecutor. I'm not really sure I have to do anything else. I'm playing all these videos for the jury so that the jury can hear her own words from her directly. You better believe it. I'm going to show the jury it several times. Should go over super well. Moving back.
Avoid getting this video striked. So on October 12th, 2025, the DoorDash customer requested that their order be left at their front door. When I arrived at their front door was wide open. Their lights were on, and they were sleeping on the couch within eyesight of the front door with their pants and underwear pulled down to their ankles, and they were indecently exposed to me. I got this on video, and
By the way, that's not even indecent exposure because their private parts were not exposed. So that's not, and also they're in their own home. So no, just on every level, but okay.
Not even going to be posting the video clip anymore because I'm pretty sure that's what's getting me the strikes.
That's okay, I got it covered.
But yeah, I reported it to DoorDash, and DoorDash did ban the customer, and then 2 days later, DoorDash banned me.
I'm pretty sure DoorDash has since unbanned the customer if I were a betting man. I don't know that for sure, but I'm going to take a flyer.
Which doesn't seem unrelated. I appealed, and they were supposed to respond to my appeal within 7 to 10 business days. They didn't even provide me a reason.
Yeah, well, let's talk about your future appeal. You have a right to an appeal. It will not. It will take longer than 7 to 10 business days, though.
Reason for my deactivation. They're supposed to send an email. They didn't. So I contacted support, and they told me to continue with my appeal without knowing a reason why. There's an option to select, don't know why I was deactivated, and then you still have to explain yourself. So I did. And within 12 hours afterward, they had already denied my appeal. So I'm really never getting my DoorDash account back.
Yeah, no,
DoorDash deactivated
not so much.
DoorDash punished me for exposing my assaulter, and
You were
TikTok is
not.
currently
You were
punishing
not
me for
assaulted.
exposing my story time. And
I think, not for nothing, but these words have been so diluted that I think people don't know what they mean anymore. She literally thinks this is assault. It's not. It's, or she just wants to play the victim, or she's an idiot. One of these things. But no, not so much.
this is the only justice I'm getting because I also reported this to the police.
No, it is not the only justice you are getting. If justice is people getting what they deserve, you will receive more justice, I assure you. The state of New York is very interested in making sure that you receive further justice.
Police, and the police are doing nothing. So, hey guys, it's been a minute, a whole 24 hours, I know. But I have an update as of October 16th, 2025. First and foremost, I just want to thank everybody for the overwhelming support and allyship that you've shown me. It's really making me feel so validated.
That's allyship, by the way, not allyship, but this woman is still getting support online. Not from a lot of people, but there are a few people who are still supporting this woman. This woman has the crazy eyes. Stay away, man.
And seen and heard, and that's really helping me through this tough time. So I just want to let you guys know I really appreciate the outpouring of support. So the update is, last night I was made aware, a bunch of people started commenting on my pages that DoorDash made a public statement about me on their TikTok story and on their most recent Instagram post in the comment section. And I'm not going to speak too much further on details, but what I am going to say is I and the entire rest of the world found out why I lost my job at the...
Again, you should have been able to figure that out pretty easily. It wasn't really super complicated. You probably could have put 2 and 2 together. But I'm glad that, DoorDash has now clarified this for you about why you were fired. So, yep.
The exact same time. I didn't find out before you guys. I'm just letting you know this right now. The people that saw their public statements and made me aware that they made those public statements knew why I lost my job before I did.
Okay.
Because I went and I checked my email once I was made aware that they made those public statements, and they sent me the deactivation email around the same time they released the public statements, like literally within the same hour. So they sent me my deactivation email explaining my reason for being deactivated a whole 24 hours after they deactivated me, and a whole 24 hours after I already submitted my appeal, and about 12 hours after they had already denied my appeal. They finally sent me the email explaining why they fired me.
Yeah.
So I and the rest of the world, we all found out why I lost my job together. That's the update.
You also probably found out you were being indicted around the same time everyone else found out about it, because they don't make those publicly available before it happens. So yeah, but okay. So that's what happens. So she goes up to this door. The factual record indicates the door might have been cracked, but she was the one who opened it. She took pictures of this person in their own home and then posted it online for all to see, and then claimed that that somehow was a sexual assault on her, which doesn't even begin to make sense on any level. But that's okay. It doesn't need to make sense. And the widespread commentary has been against this woman, although she does seem to have a few supporters out there. I saw one person on Twitter today is like, this is why women don't come forward. I'm like, because they're creeps? Is that what's going on? All right. So what has she been charged with? Well, so far she's been charged with unlawful surveillance in the second degree, which is a Class C nonviolent felony, which is the lowest degree of felony in New York, as well as dissemination of an unlawful surveillance image in the first degree, which is also a Class C felony, which is the lowest degree of felony in New York. So she's been charged with 2 low-class felonies. Now, I think it's interesting and notable that she's not been charged with trespass or anything like that, because you have to think about this from first principles, okay? You have to think about this with what her initial motive might have been, or what the initial goal was, right? So in some alternative scenario, okay, if she had gone to the door, okay, and she saw the door cracked and the person was non-responsive and she decided to open the door because she was concerned the person might be disabled, right, or hurt or some way, and she saw this person on the couch and called 911, right, then that wouldn't necessarily be illegal, because, you know, she's just being a really good Samaritan at that point, right? So the initial entry isn't necessarily illegal, right? The whole idea would be like it's necessity, right? I'm entering the house because of a genuine belief I have that there is a distressing situation inside that requires me. This person has summoned me to their house. Their door is cracked. That's suspicious. I've knocked. They've not answered. You know, so I've opened the door I've opened the door a little bit to try to yell in. Maybe that was her initial motivation. I'm going to open the door and be like, hello, anyone there? And I saw her. I saw this person. And then I decided to call 911, right? In that situation, you're not breaking the law. In that situation, you're a hero. Okay. Not to say that you have to do that. You have no obligation. But if she had done that, she might well be a hero. Even, of course, if there was no distress, right? If he had just fallen asleep, if she thought it was a medical emergency, because it might be a reasonable thing to conclude, you know, then that would be one thing. So she's not being charged with the trespass. She's not at this time being charged with breaking and entering, because she might have very well had a lawful reason. Her reason for doing so would be lawful, because she was doing so out of a concern, which is like a necessity. Because of the necessity, that's what I did it. I did it because this external thing was providing me a legal not even a legal justification, a legal excuse to be strictly legally proper about it. But that isn't what happened, right? Or at least that's not where it culminated. It culminated in her taking the video, and perhaps more importantly, in disseminating it, right? So again, like, the problem is not necessarily her entry. The problem is her taking the video and the dissemination of the video. That's the illegal part, and that makes sense, because, you know, in some alternative scenario where she called 911, then it would be perfectly fine. So that's what they're charging her for, and also why they're not charging her with trespass and not charging her with breaking and entering, because the crime of trespass or the crime of breaking and entering would have occurred when that offense happened, right? It's a time thing, right? At the time, the thing is, at the time she opened the door, right? At the time she looked inside, what was her crime at that time? Right? Because she didn't know the person was naked inside. She didn't know that there was video to be recorded yet, because that hadn't happened, right? If she had opened it for noble reasons, then there's no crime. The crime occurred later. Hopefully that makes sense. It's based on the timeline about when things happen. Things happen in a sequence, and when they happen in a sequence matters. And you can't, because something illegal happened later, go backwards in time and be like, oh, the earlier thing now becomes illegal. That's not how that works, right? Things only become illegal when they happen. So hopefully that makes sense. All right, so in terms of sentencing exposure, we're going to assume that this woman has no criminal history, or none worth mentioning, because that's a reasonable thing. Okay, so for a first-time non-predicate offense, right, this is not an offense And this is not a predicate offense for some other offense. A predicate offense would be if this offense is a element of another offense, right? That's a predicate offense. So, for example, a standard stealing might be predicate for robbery because you can't rob someone without stealing from them. So that would be a predicate offense. This is not a predicate offense, right? This is not the basis of another offense, or at least it hasn't been charged this way. So for a first-time non-predicate, non-violent offense, the technical max is 4 years in prison. That, of course, will not happen. This is a non-violent first-time offender, and we are looking anywhere from realistically no incarceration, straight probation, to some sort of minimal sentence. Although in this situation, probably a couple months maybe is a realistic thing. So yes, theoretically, you could have 8 years, although not really, because although they are distinct offenses, they're part of the same underlying criminal transaction. So you'd be unlikely to stack the sentences and say 4 plus 4, right? So theoretically, I guess if you stack them, which you really wouldn't do in this situation, you could theoretically have 8, but this is a first-time non-violent offense. And so you're looking more realistically for a first-time non-violent offense at probation with a felony record, though, still. So that's not nothing, right? So she'll still get the felony conviction. But you're looking at, realistically, you're looking at a couple months in jail, if that, which, to be honest, is not unusual for a first-time offense, right? She will in the end be treated like every other first-time offender. Now, what that says about New York and how they treat first-time offenders, I'll leave to your discretion. But, that's just the standard. So that's what they're doing. So the practical max is 4 years, but no, she's not going to go. I think it's highly unlikely she's going to go to prison. She might do some jail time, but not so much. But yeah, more realistically, probation and, some sort of classes, maybe some fine, maybe some sort of restitution to the victim. That's plausible about what's going on based on what we have right now. But of course, there could be some new exciting offenses, right? Just because this is what we've charged so far doesn't mean that we couldn't charge other things. So depending on the wishes of the prosecutor, they could potentially add other things. Now, I don't think trespassing works. I don't think breaking and entering works for reasons I've previously entertained. I don't think those offenses work. But what else could we try? Well, we could try revenge porn. We could try revenge porn because we've intentionally disseminated another image of another person. Now, this is a little bit tricky because revenge porn typically requires you to show intimate parts, and there doesn't appear to be any intimate parts. This is a person in their underwear. So, and there is no otherwise sexual conduct. So I don't think but we could try to squeeze it into a revenge porn statute or intimate image statute because she's releasing images, but the images in question do not appear to really fall into this category. So we could try to squeeze that. The other elements of the statute would work. It is without consent. There is intent to cause harm, and there is a reasonable expectation of privacy. So the other elements of the statute are there, but this is not, revenge porn. So probably not on that. But they could try to squeeze it in. Another one that's possible might be a false reporting or false statement charge, particularly if she made any formal statement to the police. So if the police interviewed her at any point and she made a false report to them, then they could charge her with that. If she made a formalized report, but unclear whether or not she did or whether or not the police interviewed her at any point prior to them being charged. So that offense only works if the police talked to her at some point prior to the charging. Otherwise, that offense doesn't work. But assuming she made a statement to the police, they could charge her with a false statement, but those are you typically just misdemeanors, and the enhancements for a felony do not appear present, so unlikely in this situation. Civil exposure, however, is much more readily apparent. The man can sue her. Now, of course, the problem with that is she doesn't have any money. She's judgment proof, as they say. She's a DoorDash driver. So yeah, we can sue him, but for what? Nothing, right? We can't sue them. And how can we, and we can't sue, I mean, we can win, we just can't collect because there's no money. We can't sue TikTok because what did TikTok do? TikTok isn't, we can't sue TikTok because, CDA 230, they are immune. And we can't sue DoorDash because what did they do? They didn't do anything, right? They just told her to go to the house and leave it at the door. So she wasn't acting under the direction of DoorDash in anything she did. There's no policy, procedure, commandment from DoorDash that led to any of this. This was on her own. So DoorDash has no liability because what do they do? TikTok has no liability. She has liability, but she has no money. So I guess we could sue her, but to what end? It just doesn't really go anywhere. I guess we could sue her for the copyright of the video so that we then are in a position to take it down because we now own the copyright. So I guess we could seize that. So I suppose, but it's like, okay, so yes, we can sue, but there's no gravy at the end of the rainbow. But we can sue for defamation. We can sue, for civil versions of revenge porn under civil rights law. We can sue for intentional infliction of emotional distress all day long. Negligent infliction of emotional distress all day long. No problem. Any ID is an easy winner here. Yeah, and any ID is an easy winner under this case span. So I can win. I just can't get anywhere with it. In terms of sex offender status, unlikely for her to be given sex offender status in any situation. New York's sex offender statute is, like most states, driven, of course, by law. There's no particular sex offense here. With respect to unlawful surveillance, some of them are registerable, but not all of them. And this does not appear to be a registerable offense, even if we charged her in the right way, because this wasn't done secretly, right? This content wasn't upskirt video. It wasn't recorded using a hidden bathroom camera. It wasn't, done like that. It wasn't done using any of those mechanisms. And the nature of the violation here was not for sexual gratification. It was not released for the purpose of sexual delight. It was released for the purpose of just amusement and degradation, which is not a triggerable offense, right? Because we're looking at sex offenses. It's right in the name, right? If she had released the video, for sexual purposes, or as the lawyers might say, prurient purposes, right? If that was her motivation, sexual gratification, sexual desire, right? That's a whole thing, right? That's your typical upskirt. That's your typical like hidden cam video. That's, someone taking video in a bathroom in order for sexual gratification, for prurient gratification. But that isn't this. Okay, so the sex offender status doesn't work because she doesn't have the underlying sexual motivation. Incidentally, by the way, not that I suppose you really care, but as long as we're here to learn something of legal value, this is what separates an image of a child that might be in a revealing status from CP. Okay, as long as we want to try to learn something. Not all images of children, including images of children naked, is CP. What makes CP CP is the sexual gratification angle of it. This, by the way, this at least in part, is so that every father who takes a picture of like their newborn child, as they wash them in the sink or something, isn't guilty of CP, right? Obviously, they took a picture of their naked child. Is it CP? No, because they're not taking it for sexual gratification, one hopes. Right? They're not taking it for that purpose. And to the extent that they are sharing it on their Facebook pages, which they probably shouldn't do, but to the extent they are sending it on their Facebook pages or sending it to fellow members of their family, they're not sending this picture for the purposes of sexual gratification. So it is not CP, despite the fact that it's pictures of a naked child, right? You have to have the prurient aspect of it to make it sexual as opposed to just naked, right? So that's the differentiating factor, in case you care. For very similar reasons, this does not appear to be sexual offense because there's nothing sexual about it, right? So that doesn't really seem to work. It doesn't seem to really work under the statute, and it doesn't seem to really work because of the purposes here were not sexual in their nature. So while she did use the imaging device to record the man, she didn't do it for the sexual purpose. So not so much. And the dissemination by itself does not trigger sex offender status. So she's not looking at a sex offense based on the best understanding of what's going on here. All right, in terms of defenses, what are this woman's defenses? All right, well, first of all, her defenses aren't great, but she does have some options if she wants to try down this way. Okay, so her best defenses are for taking the video itself, probably less for the dissemination of the video. So she probably has a decent defense in taking the video itself, because she could claim that she took the video initially because of genuine concern or to document the state of things, right? If she had taken it for documentation and even like shared that with DoorDash to say this was the situation I found things in, if she had taken it as documentation to report, right, in sort of a neutral way with no particular nefarious motive other than be like, this is the situation I found myself in. Or if she had used the purpose, or she had taken the video for the purpose of reporting it to some law enforcement authority. So like she took the video, like imagine a scenario, okay, like just imagine a scenario where you go into someone's house for whatever legitimate reason, right? And you find their like dead body, okay? And you decide to take some video for the purpose of documenting what you saw when you first walked in. You have enough presence of mind in this strange situation to take some video initially so that you can document like what you saw when you first walked in. And you're doing this, you know, in order to share it with the police or otherwise to, you know, document what's going on so that, you know, you can be a good eyewitness to whatever came forward. Okay, that kind of scenario. That would be legitimate. So if she can try to claim that there was legitimacy in her taking the video, because when she first recorded the video, she was doing it with a purpose in mind of using it for a potential report or a potential documentation, a potential complaint, either to TikTok or the government and the police, right? Then that could be good, right? The initial taking it was not for the purposes of amusement. It was for a legitimate purpose. Now, the problem, of course, is her later actions kind of belie that explanation, right? She can try to separate the two and say like, okay, I initially took it with this purpose, but later uploaded it for a different purpose. She could try to split the intent, right? Because intent can change. The intent in taking the video versus the intent in sharing the video or the motive behind it. So she could try to split the difference. But then, of course, it becomes a question of fact. The question of fact is, what intent or purpose did she have when she took the video? And her later actions could be viewed by a jury as being pretty informative of her earlier state of mind. So she would have to get someone to buy this explanation, which seems tricky, but possible, right? She, of course, can try to argue there's nothing surreptitious about it because the guy was in plain view, although she was the one who opened the door. So, but even then, the person themselves has a legitimate expectation of privacy because they're in their own home, right? This is the same problem, by the way, if you tried to record someone who was naked, you know, if there was a pretty woman, if there was a beautiful woman, and she every morning, you know, dresses herself, you know, she walks around in her bathroom naked, and you have a window that overlooks, you know, her window, and so you can see everything, and then you decide to record it and spread it out, right? She has a reasonable expectation of privacy in her home, despite the fact that, you know, she has exposed herself to the world. And so you can actually get into trouble for that kind of thing if you were specifically targeting her, right? If you just happen to be taking video, you know, and she just happens to be in frame, that's one thing, right? Because, you know, sucks to be you, right? I'm just taking video as one does, and she just happens to be in frame. So, you know, sucks to be you. But if you, you know, do your whole peeping Tom routine, this is what makes a peeping Tom, right? It's not that you could see her, it's that you decide to do that and then persist and continue in your efforts, right? So the innocent versus the non-innocent. So the fact that she could see something doesn't waive his privacy interests in this part. And of course, she can try to claim that no sexual parts were revealed. So, that's good. Other than that, so that's for the taking the video. For the taking the video, she could make it work in a pinch. For the dissemination, less so. Particularly given her follow-on video. Like, there's no real legitimate purpose for her spreading the image. There wasn't like an attempt to alert people to a danger, or there wasn't an attempt to inform people because of some emergency situation. She's just doing it for the purpose of ridicule. So, what's she going to do? Try to claim that she didn't know it's illegal? Well, that doesn't work. We already know that. She's going to try First Amendment, maybe? That she was doing public interest reporting? Not really. I mean, not in this situation. You can't just do privacy violations because journalism. That doesn't really work. So you can't dress it up as journalism and be like, but First Amendment though. That doesn't work. So, but yeah. And of course, not only the video itself, which of course speaks for itself, but also all her follow-on videos and her follow-on statements, which the prosecutor absolutely will use in court. I would every day, all day, every day. I'm going to use her videos and her prior statements. The fact that she acts like an unhinged maniac in her videos probably will not ingratiate her to a jury. And what's she going to do? Take the stand and try to cry herself out of this? She could give it a shot. She could try to take the stand and cry out of it. It's a low-level felony, so it's kind of low-level stakes. She could give it a shot. But I don't know, man. Her best option probably is to plead. Yeah, maybe they'll drop it to a misdemeanor. That's plausible. Yeah, so her best option is to plead it down to a misdemeanor and make the whole thing go away. That's probably where this thing's going to land out at the end of the day if I had to bet. She's going to try to claim some sort of subjective fear somehow got her there? No. So yeah, that's basically where things sit on this right now. So we're looking at plausible conviction of at least dissemination. We are looking at a first-time offender, so we are looking at a plausible sentence of probation or low time. We are looking at a plausible resolution of a plea deal to some kind of misdemeanor. Assuming, of course, the prosecutor continues to press the charge at all. But given the situation, you would think that they would do something. You would think that they would press this one. But they might drop it at some point, because if they drop it in 3 months because it's too low level for them, that could happen. So that's pretty much the end of that story. We'll see how it's going. And I will read some of your comments. What about the stark difference in consents for women or men? Well, that too is a factor, but even as a man, as a first-time offender, he wouldn't be looking at serious time. So yeah, the fact that there might be a grace because she's a woman is a non-trivial factor. That's possible. If a man had done this, backlash would be worse, of course, by far, right? So yes, if the sexes were reversed, it would be a very different story. Yes, that's true. Someone said my head is bleeding. No, it's not my head is bleeding. It's just what is what it is. The Sheba doctrine, something like that. What's the company's reporting policy? I don't know, and it's not relevant. Yeah, I don't think the company has a recording policy. And even if they do, it wouldn't speak to the situation. I don't really see any liability for DoorDash here. Yeah, because what did DoorDash do? Am I sure DoorDash isn't liable? Well, I can't think of any way DoorDash is liable. Their liability is not obvious. What did they do? What is the nature of their liability? What did DoorDash do? They have to have done something. What did they do? So I'm not seeing it. The guy's pressing charges. Unclear what the guy's involvement is. The pressing charges is not really a thing. Yeah, I don't know whether or not the guy is pressing charges, nor does it matter. The police bring charges, not people. So I don't know whether or not the guy is pressing or not. I don't know. The prosecutor's pressing charges, or the police are pressing charges. You know, what is the cause of action against DoorDash? What are you charging them with, or what are you suing them for? What do they do? You know, they have to have done something. What did they do? So I can't think of anything. I can't think of any liability for DoorDash. Nothing makes any sense. They didn't command it. They didn't direct it. It's not part of their standard policy. There's nothing in their policy that would create this result. There's no negligence. What did they do? They didn't even there's not even negligence by DoorDash. What did they do? Yeah, I can't think of any basis to sue them. I can't think of one. Maybe someone will think of something, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head. You know, I mean, DoorDash is a deep pocket. So, you know, I'd look for it, you know, if I could, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Nothing pops into mind. Oh yeah, by the way, for those asking about Nate the lawyer is still in the hospital. The surgery is currently scheduled for a couple days from now. He is okay, all things considered. Prognosis looks good based on what I can tell. So things look positive, you know, as they can be. I spent like 6 hours with him yesterday, and I talked to him briefly this morning as well, and I will go visit him again soon. But things look good for brain surgery, you know. So, based on what they've described to me, it sounds like the easier version of brain surgery. I can do it. Yeah, just give me a Dremel and a dream. But Nate the lawyer doesn't want to go with that approach. He wants to use a professional in an operating theater. Well, la-di-da. But we'll see, man. All right, well, I will talk to you later. I hope all is well. Cheers for now, my friends, and goodbye.